Hello, and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Dan. I'm Dan. Today's topic is whether to purchase or buy your textbooks, and no discussion of textbooks would be complete without at least mentioning the cost of textbooks. I've had to buy a lot of textbooks over my career, and there's always been a little bit of sticker shock, so I'm not here to defend the prices the publishers charge. Remember, the publishing is a business. They're there to make money. They're not there as a public service. And the price of the textbook is not so high because the authors are making a huge amount of money. When you consider it takes hundreds, if not thousands of hours for someone to put together a quality textbook, the author is not making big money. And also when you look at it, textbooks have a very narrow audience. I mean, even classes that most every college is going to teach, like algebra or English lit or something like that, there's just a lot smaller of an audience than, say, like the Harry Potter books, because the first book of the Harry Potter series is evidently sold over 100 million copies. So the more copies that are sold, the more the fixed costs of printing and distribution can be distributed over additional books. And textbooks, particularly textbooks for technical classes, usually have a lot of color, tables, figures, graphs, charts, and those take a lot of time to either produce or money to license. So that said, what can you do to cut down on your textbook costs? And one of the things you can do is rent your textbooks versus purchasing the textbooks. And that's the biggest advantage of renting your textbooks, is that you can save big money. I went online and looked at one of the textbook renting websites and compared that to the cost of new textbooks, and you could save 80% or more on the cost of new books, and that is a significant savings. And a lot of your textbooks you're just going to need for that class and you're never going to need again. So that could be a definite savings of renting the textbook compared to buying the textbook. If you can get a used version of the book, the savings is a lot less, but you can still save money on renting a textbook rather than even buying a used textbook. Another way you can save money, this isn't renting or buying, but if they change the edition of the textbook, let's say they're using the 5th edition of a textbook now, and whereas last year the 4th edition was the most recent, normally there's very little changes between editions of textbooks, and certainly not enough to justify the huge difference in cost of the different editions. So if the textbooks have been changed, the editions have been changed recently, you can consider using an older edition of the textbook. Just realize the onus is going to be on you, the responsibility is going to be on you as the student to make sure that you are reading the correct sections and pages and doing the correct problems, because maybe the page numbering changed or the sections changed in the new edition compared to the old edition, and maybe they change some of the problems. So if you want to risk that, saving that money by using an older edition compared to the newest edition, fine, but remember it's on you to make sure you're doing the correct work and reading the correct material. There are some disadvantages of renting that you need to be aware of, and one is that most of the time you are not guaranteed to receive a new book. So if you're someone that always likes to have a fresh, clean book that's not marked up or highlighted or dog-eared, well, you're out of luck. So that's something you have to consider. And that said, the book you receive may have some marginal notes made by previous readers. It may have some highlighting in. Now, the websites I went to and looked at, they made it very clear that excessive highlighting or marking up the book could be grounds for not accepting the book back, meaning the person that did all that writing and highlighting would have to buy the book. So if you are someone that likes to do a lot of highlighting in the book, likes to make a lot of marginal notes, likes to underline things, probably not a good idea for you to rent the book, because you're probably going to end up having to buy the book. If you're someone that is hard on your books, I mean, you just throw them around in your book bag, you carry them around, you drop them a lot, if you damage the book, you may be required to purchase the book. And one of the websites I went to listed what they consider damage, and it's water damage. Did you spill something on the book? Are the papers wrinkly, the pages wrinkly? because you spilled something on it? Are there torn or loose pages? Did you break the spine? Is the cover torn or taped? Does it smell? I mean, if you're in a house with a lot of smokers and the textbook takes on an odor of cigarette smoke, then you may end up having to buy the book. So if you're hard on your books again, renting is probably not for you. And here's probably the biggest downside of renting, and that is if the book is supposed to come with supplemental material or computer codes to access some sort of online resources, the websites generally don't guarantee that that supplemental material will either A, be included, or that those codes will be valid. So if a previous person has logged on and used that computer code to access the online materials, that code is probably no longer going to be valid. So if your professor likes to use that supplemental material and someone else has already used that code, then you're out of luck. So you really need to make sure that there's not supplemental material before you rent a textbook. You know, it could take an excessive amount of time to get the book at the beginning of the semester. If there's a lot of popular books out there that are being rented, they may run out of stock and you may end up having to go buy one, or they may put it on back order. And quite frankly, your professor is not going to cut you any slack. It's like, oh, I can't get the book for 3 weeks because it's on back order. It's like, well, it's over there in the bookstore. You need to go buy it or work something out, because your professor's not going to let you slide on your reading or your assignments just because you're waiting on the book to be back ordered. You have to return the book unless you decide to buy it. Most of the websites give you an opportunity to buy the book if you decide, hey, this is a really good book that I may need in my future. So for technical classes, maybe those books will be useful in your field. That's what I always thought when I was going through college. I saved my textbooks, didn't sell them back. As far as the technical ones, the liberal arts ones usually went back. But you know, as you can see behind me, there's a lot of textbooks. Most of those I picked up in my professional career. They're not books that I used in school. Some of them are. And with what I do as forensics, I have a need to use some of these, but a lot of people don't have a need to use their technical textbooks as far as civil engineering goes. Other people may, so that's something you need to look at. For your hardcore classes within your major, are those books going to potentially be useful either A, in your career, or if you have to take a licensing exam? So it's one of those things to check around. In reality, probably not going to need a lot of your textbooks. So renting versus buying, probably not going to be that big a deal. And from an overall cost savings perspective, if you need to go back out later in your professional life and buy a couple of books, you're probably still going to be money ahead. Because especially, again, there's a lot of information available online that wasn't available back, you know, in the olden days when I was going through undergrad. So you've got a lot more sources to get information. So in summary, renting makes sense if you're not going to need your books again, if there's no supplemental material for the course that you have to worry about not being included or not being valid, and you're reasonably certain that you can take care of the book. You're not going to beat it up so much or highlight it so much that you're going to be stuck buying it anyway, because you may have to pay the cost of replacing the textbook as new even if they sent you a used textbook. So you'd be money ahead just buying the used textbook rather than renting if you're going to be hard on the textbooks. And, you know, please share your experiences with renting, how your renting textbooks went in the comments below so other people can see what to watch out for, because there's probably something that I didn't think of to include in this video, and it would be helpful for other folks to know what to look out for. So hopefully this helped. Take care, and I'll see you next time.